mindfulness at work and how to get us, into work mode and totally de-stress. So welcome, John. Thank you for being here today with us.
Hi there.
So before we begin, I want to remind you guys that this panel is an interactive panel, which means you can ask questions at any point during the session by hand and unmuting yourself and asking the question verbally, or by typing your question in the Q&A box, and I'll direct that question to John. So for those of you joining us through Facebook, I also recommend that you head to meditation.live and download the app in order to participate in this class. So let's begin with my first question that I'm actually interested in knowing a little bit about. What does being mindful at work actually mean, and how can it help us in the long run?
Hello, everybody. It's really lovely to see you, and it's great to be here. And I've been reflecting on this quite a lot since we talked about doing this panel. And not everybody's work situation is the same. I think we tend to come to think of things as whatever it is that we are doing, that's how it is for everybody else. But I was reflecting this morning that people actually work in, well, limitless work situations. I work from home a lot of the time, or I'm traveling somewhere. People are in offices, or there's a guy actually lives on the next street who's a grave digger that I know. Things are so different. So the common thing underneath all this is, how can we kind of bring more of ourselves to work? And very often we'll hear things like, well, how can mindfulness help us be more productive, or something like that? And I think those questions kind of lead us in the wrong direction somehow, because they're kind of dealing with things at the level of kind of symptom, whereas being productive may be the more productive, may be the very last thing we need to do. We may actually need to be more reflective, more creative, more able to access something deeper inside us, more time to step back, more space for inspiration to occur, and more actually being present. So if we're just kind of running, kind of doing firefighting style work from one drama to the next drama to the next drama, we will go round and round and round, and the jobs never seem to end. And that's no way to live. What meditation does, mindfulness is kind of, a way in, a kind of first sort of step, as the Buddha would have said, maybe not in that language, towards things, but we're actually starting to step back into the middle. That's what we're really doing. And I'm sorry, this is quite a long answer. I was also reflecting this morning that we tend to think that our work life is somehow separate from our life. A lot of people do anyway. Maybe you don't. I can't speak generally. I'm just trying to kind of say something, which is probably wrong. Or we think our family life is separate from our work life, our social life, our online life, or this or that, our good times and our bad times. But actually, it's all your life. And what I found with my own practice over 40 years is that meditation has helped me actually be that one life in every situation. When I go to work, it's this life. When I'm with my friends, it's this life, wherever I am. And so that coming back to the basis of yourself will allow you to actually turn up better. Is that a good answer? I don't know if that's a good answer.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me, for sure. I love the idea of being able to stop and reflect and, think about work as part of your life, rather than something that you just have to do nonstop. A lot of the times I find myself, at least, doing so many things, but then I can't really focus on one and do it right, because I'm, boggled down with all of these things to do. I actually have a question that kind of relates to what you just said. Oftentimes when I wake up in the morning, it's that time between the morning when I wake up and the time I get to work that is very stressful for me, because I think about all of the things that I have to do, and I know everything will get done. But at the end of the day, it gives me a little bit of stress to think about all of that, the anticipation almost. So what can I do, or what are some things that I can practice to be able to sort of like not do that in the mornings and just come to work and feel completely relaxed?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I do myself, and it takes a lot of effort to instigate in the first place, is I don't look at my email until it's time for work, for example. If the first thing you do in the morning is look at your Facebook and your emails and things like that, then you're straight into that. Your work starts when work starts. And if you're not honoring yourself in keeping the contract with yourself of your time, then you're not honoring yourself. So we owe it to ourselves to actually work when we're at work. And I know a lot of people who don't work when they're at work because they social network their lives away. And in Japan, they've kind of done a lot to try and get rid of this. It's really quite interesting, some of the stuff that's happening in Japan, like Fridays are digital-free days in a lot of offices, for example. I think Huffington Post do something similar. So we have to kind of actually almost have boundaries. We need to have boundaries between I've just said it's all one life, but that doesn't mean that it's all the work life. It's actually all our life. So we actually do need to kind of have clear lines as to kind of what we do with our life force, our time, our energy, our love, our commitment, and so on. So it may be worth kind of reflecting on for each of us how we can perhaps, it's not about being grumpy about it, but just being clear with ourselves, this belongs here, this belongs there.
That makes total sense. And I'm gonna take that tip of not checking my email right before right after
Yeah,
I wake up.
well, Tim Ferriss, I don't know if you've read The 4 Hour Work Week, which is a book which, it has got some good bits in it. I learned the trick from him is you check your mail at noon and at 4. That's it. And anything that's not done in that time is not done. Because actually answering email is probably not work as well. It's not getting on with the main task a lot of the time. We often put second things first.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think, all the digital stimuli also gets us to feel a little bit stressed. So in that note of, slowing down and making us feel good right before work, I think it would be great to launch into a little
Situations and lives are different. And so it's lovely for us to be able to actually meet your particular situation, but you have to kind of show us a bit before we can kind of do that in a way. So I just wanted to kind of show you the very most basic practice that there is. That's all. And then perhaps towards the end, if we have time, I want to show you something, because people always say, I don't have time to meditate. And how do I meditate at work? Something that you can do that takes no time whatsoever, 0 time. So a 0 time practice is coming at the end, if we remember. But for now, just allow yourself to settle where you are. And there's a real key to this. The key is to allow rather than try to make yourself meditate or be mindful. So just allow yourself to be where you are now, in the room that you're in. You can close your eyes if you want to. You can keep your eyes open. And you need show no outward signs whatsoever of meditating. But the real key is that between the allowing and the making. And all I would like you to do is feel your feet against the floor, so you feel a little bit grounded, and your weight against the seat. And if your back's against the back of a chair, then feel the chair against your back. Perhaps feel the warmth in your hands, the warmth in your face, in your chest, in your abdomen, in your legs. And just notice that you're breathing, already breathing. You're not taking an extra breath in to try and relax or anything like that. You just simply notice the breath coming and going. And just notice how meeting your breath is for you. Your breath is one of the major biofeedback systems in your body, as well as being the conduit of life. Your breath will tell you everything you need to know about how you are in this moment. So if you're feeling a little bit anxious or something, allow some kindness to come into you and to open up to that in recognition. And perhaps you can notice that you can feel the spaces in the breath. Space at the inhale and space at the exhale. And allow yourself to just simply deepen into that totality of your breath, the breath themselves and the space. Notice that you can hear sounds around you in the room that you're in and outside of the room. And in the same way, you have the sounds and you have little spaces in between the sounds. If you experience both equally, notice how the pressure drops, how you feel a little bit more present. And so I invite you now just to open your eyes and be back with me. And notice how you feel just now. Recognize that in your body. Don't take anything anybody says as being, this is the way to do it. Please always recognize things for yourself. Don't even take what I say. Always check for yourself, see how that feels. Check it with your own sense of being. That's the only way to go.
Thank you, John. That was wonderful. I feel so much more present for sure where I am. I definitely want to tackle this question that an attendee just sent earlier on. The question is basically, how do I get my team to try mindfulness practices when they are intimidated by it?
Okay. So I would say with this, it's very similar to the question which I seem to get asked an awful lot. People come to me in the street, how do I get my child to meditate? Or will you teach my child to meditate? And I say, well, well, the thing is you be the example of practice yourself. That's the thing to do. You can't get anybody to do anything. And it might be nice to kind of suggest it in a way, and you can gently suggest, we'll happily set something up and do something with your team or something like that. We can definitely do that through Meditation Live. But really, the best way to do anything is just to get on with your own life, get on with your own practice, and then people will start saying things to you like, you look different. You look a bit more shiny. Where's that energy coming from in you? You seem to be doing much better in your life. And then, well, what's going on there? And you can say, well, I've started meditating recently, and this is the one of the benefits that I'm seeing. I'll show you if you want, or this is what I'm using. And then it kind of spreads more naturally. So I think unless we are the absolute model for our own lives, if our lives are not the model of what it is that we're talking about, and I'm not saying you're not, then things feel like an imposition to people. And I know a lot of people who feel, because you get a lot of this in the UK where I am, where they bring in somebody to do some mindfulness or something, and really, the teams and things in the offices just kind of reject it, don't like it, but they do it for the kind of the free sandwiches in the day, not at the desk sort of thing. And so it's worth much more than this. So the best thing we can do is model things for ourselves.
I love that idea of showing by example. I think it works in a lot of areas of life, and this one is a really good one. Speaking a little bit more about meditation at work. Personally, I work from home, so it's very easy for me to step out and do a meditation because I have means, I have the space. But I know a lot of people work in offices, they work in crowded spaces, and places that it might be a little bit hard to sit back and meditate. What can you suggest to those people in order for them to find the quiet space, or maybe find some sort of way to do a meditation without being quiet? What's your suggestion on that?
I'd say use your lunchtime wisely for your own benefit. Use it, as we said right at the beginning, it's all your life. Every moment of your life is your life. And just because we work for a company or we work for somebody does not mean that we're owned. And if a work situation isn't a win-win situation, both with the way that the company is towards us or the way that we are towards the company, actually, if we're working by resentment or something like that, then that's not a good situation. We need to kind of come back to our hearts and kind of look at that a little bit. And I understand that we sometimes have to take jobs because we just need the money, or just the very practical factors of life. But the more that we actually come into kind of consciousness about things, the more we'll actually gravitate towards the win-win situation. So the first thing I would say is kind of look for the win-win. But actually, if you've got time to check Facebook while you're at work, then you've got time to meditate. But the fact that you're breathing this very moment means that you don't need to take any time, which is why I said I'd show you a little practice that doesn't require any time at all, because meditation isn't something that's carved off in a thing. I mean, formal practice is kind of sitting, formally within oneself, as it were, but you're alive in this moment, you are breathing in this moment, and all you need do is meet life with a kind of slightly more vertical dimension within yourself instead of running along the symptomatic lines around the outside of it, and you'll bring your meditation with you to everything. And it can be when the phone rings that you allow one ring extra, that you just put your hand on your heart for a moment, or that you just feel your feet against the floor, or you look out the window and you look at the flower and you don't go off into a dream, or you feel the impulse to check Facebook and you go, you know what, I'll just do this instead for 10 seconds. Or you schedule bathroom breaks where you kind of walk in presence to the loo and back, go and make a cup of tea. Every single thing is actually the opportunity for practice rather than the distraction from it. Even sitting with your boss while you're being yelled at, if they are yelling at you, or you're being given instructions for the day or whatever, is an opportunity for you to be present rather than be in reaction.
That's beautiful. That makes a lot of sense. And if we think about it that way, I think we could meditate at any point in time during the day, which is wonderful. I want to remind everybody that we only have a couple minutes left, and if you have any questions for John, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box, or to raise your hand to unmute yourself. I do have one last question that I wanted to ask. I know that a lot of the times people feel stressed during the end of the day. Actually, I'm gonna skip my question because I just got a new question in, and I want to make sure I tackle it because we don't have that much time. So this anonymous attendee is saying, I work in a very toxic office. My body tenses up in the instant I'm in the parking lot. It's so stressful, but I can't leave till I find another job. How can I find moments of peace at work like this? It's a wonderful question.
It is, actually. And I recognize what you say. I've worked in similar offices in the past, I'm sure. And in the deeper sense, there's so many levels, you see, that we can kind of take these things at, and that's what I mean. It's very hard to kind of generalize even about something like this, because and this is not a blaming thing I'm saying here, but at a deep level, there's also what we are bringing to the place as well, but I do understand that we can be in very, very hard environments indeed. So I would say, as we've been talking about all the way through this session, is stick to your contract, basically. Kind of, delineate time very, very clearly as best you can. Don't get dragged along by the working yourself to death culture, which seems to permeate everything. But remember that you are kind of working here for specific reasons, to earn money, to build resources for your life, and then allow that to change. So, but at any moment that you can practice or come back to yourself, then do. And so, as I say, take a walk at lunchtime, use your bathroom breaks wisely, even just walking to the next cubicle and speaking to another person is a chance to kind of be in the self, and perhaps, I don't know if you say you drive to work and you're in the parking lot. I was going to say, if you're on the bus or on a train or something like that, you could journal or kind of listen to some kind of theater music, or or bring something into the office that's a symbol of your freedom, and kind of bring a bit of yourself with you in a way that no one else can see. This is a terrible admission, but I used to work in a local government office. I was literature development worker for one of the counties of Britain, back in my kind of more literature-based days, and it was awful, and there was nowhere to do anything. So I bought myself lots and lots of red underwear, and I know you're going to laugh, but actually putting my red underwear on every morning so that obviously no one was going to see it at work, just gave me a sense of me rebelling a little bit, quite honestly, and uh, and actually I found ways to gently kind of be with myself when I'm at the photocopier, when I kind of, like I say, going for a cup of tea and so on. So we can find ways. This is a huge question, and kind of it'd be nice to kind of pick this up again, perhaps having a chat rather than doing it by text if we could at some point, because we can get into it a lot more. But thank you for your question. Bless you. I hope there was something in there for you anyway. And we're going to have the red underwear thing on Facebook and YouTube now, which is just great. So
I love that, John. I think it's like me when I dress up and I feel good about myself. I feel like, I'm less stressed that way. So I think a lot of people can relate to that for sure.
yeah,
So we're actually a little bit out of time, but I want to thank you, John, and everybody in this class for being here today. And I really hope everybody has a wonderful work day, and just a wonderful week in general. John, do you want to say a few more words?
yeah. Let's just come back together for a second. I promised you a tiny little thing. So what I've been trying to say all the way through this, in a kind of quite direct way, actually, is that meditation actually doesn't take time. Okay, that's an illusion that we've picked up from somewhere, that's passed on from kind of one person copying a thing from a book that another person's copied from a book. You're alive now. Meditation is about your life in this moment, not the next moment and not the moment that has gone, which doesn't mean that they don't exist. But the way that we relate to those moments is absolutely down to this moment. That's as simple as that. And the more you're in life in this present moment, the more we will be clear about how the past has been and what we can do about that. And the more the future will unfold in a kind of loving and kindly manner towards ourselves, because we're able to actually make choices. So all we have to do is, if you can, just allow yourself perhaps to feel the life within your body. So we're not even going to go to the breath here. Just feel the life force in your body in any way you can. And if you find yourself thinking about it, drop from your head. Just drop from your head. You're alive all the way through your body, not just in your head. But perhaps you've worked in a culture for a long time that just makes you into a head. So we need to kind of work on that. Perhaps you can feel more in your legs or more in your hands, but just the feeling of life. And just noticing how this is for you in this moment. So you're not maintaining this, you're just noticing the life in you. And just see how that is for you. And perhaps throughout the day at work, just keep coming back to this 30, 40 times at any moment that you remember, that you can slow down a little bit. So we're not actually going into formal meditation of any kind. We're just coming back to the life in our body, the basic thing that is creating your body and life in this moment. Because here you are, you're alive, so it has to be true. There's nothing to argue about with this. You're alive. So just feeling that aliveness. And that's a beautiful place to begin and to end this session. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, John. That was wonderful. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.